One used SUV can look perfect on the lot. Clean paint, big wheels, fresh detail, leather seats, a huge screen, a shiny badge, a high driving position that makes the whole thing feel safe. But a mechanic can see what the buyer misses in 5 minutes. Cleared codes, transmission hesitation, oil leaks, suspension wear, electrical problems, cheap repairs, rust hiding underneath, and a repair bill waiting under the hood. That is the danger with used SUVs. They are not just bigger cars. They are heavier, more complex, more expensive to fix, more likely to be used by families, commuters, road trippers, off-roaders, luxury buyers, and owners who ignored maintenance until something finally broke. And the worst part? A lot of used SUVs look reliable because they look normal. They sit high. They feel safe. They look practical. They have space for kids, dogs, luggage, groceries, strollers, sports bags, and road trips. But behind that practical image, some SUV brands and SUV lines are hiding expensive ownership traps. Today, I'm showing you 7 used SUV brands and SUV lines buyers should be extremely careful with, and 4 SUV choices that mechanics are much more likely to respect when the records are clean. And at the end, I'll give you the used SUV inspection protocol you should run before buying anything. No dealership trust. No badge loyalty. No, it looks clean. No, the seller seemed honest. Just the SUV, the service history, the inspection, and the truth. Brand number 7. Nissan and Infiniti SUVs. You buy a used Nissan or Infiniti SUV because it looks like smart value. The price is lower. The interior is comfortable. The fuel economy seems decent. The badge feels familiar. And on the lot, it can look like a practical family SUV for thousands less than a Toyota, Honda, or Lexus. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Some used Nissan and Infiniti SUVs are exactly the kind of vehicles mechanics inspect very carefully because of one word: transmission. Especially CVD risk on certain models and years. A continuously variable transmission can feel smooth when everything is working, but when it starts to fail, the repair can become expensive fast, and the warning signs are easy for a normal buyer to miss. A slight shudder, a delayed response, a whining sound, a strange hesitation when accelerating, a transmission that feels fine during a short test drive but acts differently when hot. That is where buyers get trapped. They see a clean SUV. They see a reasonable price. They see a family-friendly interior. They think they found a deal. But the mechanic is looking for something else. Transmission behavior, fluid history, service records, warning codes, previous overheating, and whether the SUV has already started showing symptoms the seller is hoping you will not notice. This does not mean every Nissan or Infiniti SUV is bad, but it does mean you do not buy one blindly. Because if the price looks too attractive, the transmission might be the reason. Bottom line, used Nissan and Infiniti SUVs can look like smart value, but buyers need to inspect transmission condition very carefully before trusting the price. Cons: transmission risk on certain models and years, expensive repairs, symptoms that can be subtle during a short test drive, and low prices that can hide major ownership risk. But brand number 6 is different. It does not sell cheap value. It sells premium confidence. And that can be even more dangerous. Brand number 6, Mercedes-Benz SUVs. You buy a used Mercedes-Benz SUV because it feels like you made it. The badge, the leather, the lights, the giant screen, the quiet cabin, the way it pulls up to a hotel, a school, or a driveway and instantly looks expensive. That's the bait. Here's the hook. A used luxury SUV may depreciate, but luxury repairs do not. That is the mistake buyers make. They see a Mercedes SUV that once cost serious money now selling for the price of a normal used family SUV. And they think they found a cheat code. They did not. They found a luxury vehicle with luxury systems, luxury parts, luxury labor, luxury electronics, and luxury repair bills. Air suspension, turbocharged engines, advanced driver assist systems, electronic modules, complex infotainment, luxury seats, sensors everywhere, expensive tires, expensive brakes. Everything feels premium when it works. It feels different when it is out of warranty. That is why mechanics are careful with used luxury SUVs. Not because they cannot be impressive. They can. But because the second, third, or fourth owner often buys the image without budgeting for the maintenance. The monthly payment went down. The badge stayed expensive. Bottom line, a used Mercedes-Benz SUV can feel like affordable luxury, but the repair ecosystem is still luxury priced. Cons: expensive parts, complex electronics, air suspension risk, premium labor costs, and depreciation that can lure buyers into vehicles they cannot afford to maintain. But if Mercedes sells status, brand number 5 sells performance. And performance can hide a different kind of damage. Brand number 5, BMW SUVs. You buy a used BMW SUV because it does not feel like a boring family vehicle. It feels sharp, fast, sporty, expensive, driver-focused, like an SUV for people who still care about performance. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Performance branding creates performance behavior. A BMW SUV is not always driven like a calm family crossover. It may have been pushed hard, accelerated hard, braked hard, cornered hard, tuned, modified, ignored until the service light came on. And that matters, because modern BMW SUVs can be complicated machines. Turbochargers, cooling systems, oil leaks, electronic modules, suspension components, transfer cases, all-wheel drive systems, performance tires, expensive brakes. A buyer sees the badge and the discount. A mechanic sees heat, pressure, complexity, and previous owner behavior. That is the used BMW SUV problem. The first owner may have leased it. The second owner may have wanted the badge. The third owner may be the one who gets the bill. The SUV can still feel amazing on a short test drive. That is the trap. A powerful engine can hide problems for 10 minutes. A clean interior can hide skipped maintenance. A fresh detail can hide oil leaks. A warning light can be cleared, but a proper inspection does not care about the badge. Bottom line, used BMW SUVs can be exciting, but excitement is not the same as safe long-term ownership. Cons: complex turbocharged systems, expensive maintenance, hard driving risk, previous owner abuse, electronic issues, and repair costs that can punish buyers who only looked at the badge. But brand number 4 does not sell speed. It sells adventure. And adventure can be even worse for used buyers. Brand number 4, Jeep SUVs. You buy a Jeep SUV because it feels like freedom. Mountains, dirt roads, snow, camping, dogs, weekend trips, trail badges, open roads. A vehicle that says you are not just commuting, you are escaping. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Adventure branding does not fix reliability, and it does not erase abuse. This is the danger with used Jeep SUVs. Some of them were not just driven. They were used. Off-road trails, lift kits, oversized tires, cheap suspension parts, mud, water crossings, rock impacts, aftermarket lights, winches. Owners who wanted the image more than the maintenance. A clean used Jeep on the lot can hide a very hard life. The paint may be shiny. The tires may look aggressive. The interior may be detailed. But underneath? Suspension wear, steering issues, rust, leaking seals, electrical problems, undercarriage damage, cheap modifications, and a previous owner who treated the SUV like a toy. That is why mechanics inspect used Jeeps carefully. The question is not just, does it run? The question is, what life did it live? A Jeep SUV can be fun. A Jeep SUV can be iconic. A Jeep SUV can be capable. But used buyers cannot let the lifestyle image replace inspection logic. Bottom line, Jeep sells identity extremely well, but used buyers need to separate the adventure fantasy from the mechanical reality. Cons: off-road abuse risk, modification risk, steering and suspension wear, emotional buying, and used examples that may hide damage under a cool exterior. But brand number 3 is not about trails. It is about luxury adventure. And that might be the most expensive trap of all. Brand number 3, Land Rover and Range Rover SUVs. You buy a Land Rover or Range Rover because it feels like the ultimate SUV dream. British luxury, leather, prestige, mountain roads, country estates, snow, rain, mud. A vehicle that looks equally at home outside a luxury hotel or on a remote trail. That's the bait. Here's the hook. The fantasy is not the ownership cost. Used Land Rovers and Range Rovers can look dangerously tempting because depreciation makes them appear affordable. A 6-figure SUV can become a used bargain. But the repair bills do not become bargain bills. They remain luxury repair bills. And the complexity is serious. Air suspension, terrain systems, electronics, cooling systems, Sensors, luxury interior components, specialized diagnostics, expensive labor, expensive parts. This is why so many mechanics treat used Land Rover and Range Rover purchases with caution. They can be beautiful, they can be comfortable, they can be impressive, but when they go wrong, they can go wrong in expensive layers. One issue leads to another. One warning light becomes three. One suspension problem becomes a system problem. One electrical issue turns into a diagnostic hunt. And the used buyer often does not understand what they are stepping into. They think they are buying luxury for less. Sometimes they are buying a repair schedule wearing leather seats. Bottom line, Land Rover and Range Rover SUVs may look premium, but used ownership can become a financial warning light. Cons: high repair costs, complex systems, air suspension risk, electrical complexity, expensive diagnostics, and depreciation that can lure buyers into a trap. But brand number 2 is more common, more familiar, and easier to underestimate. Brand number 2, Ford Explorer and used Ford SUVs. You buy a used Ford SUV because it feels familiar. Explorers are everywhere. Families drive them. Police fleets use them. Rental companies use them. Dealers always have them. Parts seem available. Mechanics know them. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Common does not mean low risk. It only means there are more examples to inspect. That is the mistake buyers make with used Ford SUVs. They think because the vehicle is everywhere, it must be safe to buy. But a used SUV's condition depends on its life. Was it a rental? Was it a fleet vehicle? Was it driven hard? Was it maintained on schedule? Was it used in snow and salt? Was it idled for hours? Was it repaired cheaply? Was it detailed right before sale? The Ford Explorer especially can be a useful SUV in the right condition. But it can also be a used vehicle lottery if the buyer does not check history. And when you are buying a 3-row SUV, the wear adds up. Family use, short trips, stop-and-go traffic, heavy passengers, cargo, school runs, road trips, hot interiors, cold starts, transmission load, suspension wear. A clean SUV can still have a tired mechanical life. That is why mechanics care less about the badge and more about the history, the VIN, the maintenance, the idle time, the undercarriage, the transmission behavior, the scan results. Bottom line, used Ford SUVs can make sense, but never buy them just because they are common. Cons: fleet and rental history risk, heavy family use wear, transmission and electronic concerns on certain years, rust risk in harsh climates, and buyer overconfidence caused by familiarity. Now we get to brand number 1, the SUV category that traps buyers because it looks practical, premium, and powerful all at once. Brand number 1, GMC, Chevrolet, and Cadillac large SUVs. You buy a used GM large SUV because it feels like the ultimate American family machine. Chevrolet Tahoe, Chevrolet Suburban, GMC Yukon, GMC Yukon XL, Cadillac Escalade. Big, comfortable, powerful, spacious, towing capable, road trip ready. A vehicle that can carry people, luggage, boats, trailers, dogs, and ego at the same time. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Everything big costs more. Big tires, big brakes, big fuel bills, big suspension wear, big engines, big electronics, big luxury trims, big repair bills. A used Tahoe, Yukon, Suburban, or Escalade can look like a great family deal because these SUVs are familiar and desirable. But the wrong one can become extremely expensive, especially if it was used for towing, especially if it was a high-mileage family hauler, especially if it has luxury trim features, especially if it has poor service history, especially if the previous owner stretched maintenance because the SUV still drove fine. That phrase is dangerous. Still drove fine does not mean healthy. It means the bill may not have arrived yet. These SUVs are often bought by people who need space, power, and comfort. But space, power, and comfort come with weight. And weight wears things out. Suspension, brakes, tires, drivetrain, cooling system, transmission, interior electronics. A mechanic does not look at a big SUV and think, nice badge. A mechanic thinks, how was it used? What did it tow? How often was it serviced? Are there codes? Is the transmission smooth? Are there leaks? Is there rust? Are the electronics behaving? What is hiding underneath? Bottom line, GM's large SUVs can be excellent when maintained properly, but they can also hide some of the biggest used SUV repair bills. Cons: high ownership costs, heavy use wear, towing stress, luxury trim complexity, fuel costs, suspension wear, and hidden repair bills that appear after the sale. Now, let me show you the 4 SUV choices that actually deserve trust. Not because they are perfect, because they make more sense when the year, condition, service history, and inspection results are right. Good SUV number 4, Mazda CX-5, CX-50, and CX-9. Mazda is not the loudest SUV brand in America, and that is part of the appeal. A clean used Mazda SUV often attracts a different kind of buyer. Someone who wants a practical vehicle, a nicer driving feel, and reasonable ownership logic without jumping into luxury repair costs. Mazda SUVs like the CX-5, CX-50, and CX-9 can make strong used SUV candidates when the records are clean and the inspection checks out. They feel more premium than many mainstream SUVs, but they do not usually carry the same repair cost fear as old German luxury SUVs. That balance matters, because a good used SUV should not just feel nice during the test drive. It should still make sense years later. Of course, you still inspect carefully. You check maintenance records. You check the engine. You check the transmission behavior. You check tires. You check suspension. You check for rust. You scan for codes. But if the condition is right, Mazda SUVs can be a smart middle ground between boring practicality and expensive luxury. Pros: strong mainstream value, refined driving feel, practical SUV layouts, lower luxury risk exposure, and smart ownership logic when properly maintained. Good SUV number 3, Honda CR-V and Honda Pilot. Honda SUVs are not exciting in the way luxury brands are exciting, and that is exactly the point. A used Honda CR-V or Honda Pilot is usually not trying to sell status. It is trying to be useful. School runs, commuting, groceries, road trips, family driving, normal life. That matters, because the best used SUV is often not the one with the most dramatic commercial. It is the one with the fewest surprises. Honda SUVs have earned trust because buyers know what they are getting when they choose carefully. A CR-V can be an excellent compact SUV for everyday use. A Pilot can be a practical 3-row family SUV when maintained properly. But again, condition matters. Service history matters. Transmission behavior matters. Timing maintenance matters where applicable. Rust matters. Previous owner behavior matters. Do not buy the badge blindly. But if the records are clean, Honda SUVs deserve serious consideration. Pros: practical ownership, strong reputation, broad mechanic familiarity, useful family layouts, and good long-term logic when properly maintained. Good SUV number 2, Toyota RAV4, Highlander, and 4Runner. Toyota SUVs are not magic, but they are respected for a reason. RAV4, Highlander, 4Runner. Different sizes, different uses, different buyers, but the same basic appeal. Long-term confidence. Toyota SUVs often hold value because the market trusts them. Owners keep them. Mechanics know them. Parts are available. Information is everywhere. And buyers are willing to pay more because they believe the vehicle has a better chance of making sense long-term. That does not mean every Toyota SUV is perfect. Some used ones are overpriced. Some were neglected. Some were abused. Some 4Runners were taken off-road hard. Some Highlanders lived brutal family lives. Some RAV4s were treated like appliances and never maintained properly. But compared with many used SUV choices, Toyota gives buyers a stronger starting point, especially if you verify the exact year, engine, service records, and inspection. Pros: strong resale value, broad reliability reputation, huge owner community, mechanic familiarity, and some of the safest used SUV choices when inspected properly. Good SUV number 1, Lexus RX and Lexus GX. This is where luxury finally makes sense, because Lexus gives buyers something many luxury SUVs do not: premium comfort without abandoning long-term logic. The Lexus RX is one of the clearest examples of smart used luxury SUV buying. Comfortable, quiet, practical, reliable reputation, strong resale, not trying too hard to be extreme. The Lexus GX is different, more rugged, more traditional, more old school, more body on frame. A real SUV with long-term appeal when maintained correctly. And both share the same core advantage: Toyota-backed engineering culture. This does not mean repairs are free. This does not mean every Lexus is perfect. This does not mean you skip the inspection. But compared with many luxury SUVs, Lexus gives buyers a much better balance between comfort, dependability, and long-term ownership confidence. That is why mechanics often respect clean Lexus SUVs. They are not cheap, but they can be worth paying for. Pros: premium comfort, strong long-term reputation, Toyota-backed engineering, better ownership logic than many luxury SUVs, and strong resale value when properly maintained. Now, before you buy any used SUV, here is the inspection protocol. The Used SUV Inspection Protocol. Step 1. Get the VIN before you visit. Do not waste time driving to see an SUV if the seller refuses to provide the VIN. Use the VIN to check recalls, model year, engine, trim, ownership history, accident history, open issues, and known problems tied to that exact configuration. If the seller acts weird about the VIN, walk away. Step 2. Look underneath. SUV buyers often check the seats and screens first. Wrong. Look underneath. Rust, leaks, suspension wear, damaged underbody panels, signs of off-road use, fluid seepage, cheap repairs, uneven tire wear. The underside tells the story the detailed job tries to hide. Step 3. Cold start it. A warm engine can hide problems. Start the SUV cold. Listen for rattles. Watch the exhaust. Feel the idle. Check warning lights. See how it shifts. See how it accelerates. See how it behaves before everything is warmed up. Step 4. Scan it. Plug in an OBD scanner. Look for active codes, pending codes, cleared codes, readiness monitors, transmission behavior, misfire history, electronic issues. A clean dashboard does not mean a clean SUV. Step 5. Pay for a pre-purchase inspection. If the seller refuses, that is your answer. A good SUV can survive an inspection. A bad SUV needs pressure, urgency, excuses, and someone else is coming to see it today. Do not fall for that. Conclusion: 7 used SUV brands and SUV lines buyers should never purchase blindly. For SUV choices that make more sense when the records are clean. And one truth the SUV industry does not put in commercials: practical does not always mean reliable. A big cabin does not mean low repair costs. A luxury badge does not mean smart ownership. A clean interior does not mean clean service history. A high seating position does not mean the drivetrain is healthy. A famous brand does not mean every model year is safe. Nissan sells value. Mercedes sells status. BMW sells performance. Jeep sells adventure. Land Rover sells luxury exploration. Ford sells familiarity. GM sells size and power. But none of those stories matter when the repair bill arrives. The smartest SUV buyers are not asking, which SUV looks best on the lot? They are asking, which SUV will still make sense 5 years from now? That question can save you thousands. If this video helped you, hit like, subscribe to Car Brands Exposed, and tell me in the comments which SUV brand shocked you the most. And before you buy your next SUV, remember, do not trust the badge. Check the data. If this video helped you, make sure to subscribe to Car Brands Exposed. We break down the car brands, SUVs, trucks, repairs, and hidden ownership costs most people never see until it's too late. Drop a comment below and tell me which brand, model, or repair issue shocked you the most. And if you want to make smarter car buying decisions, watch the next video on screen now.